Well, welcome to South County Museum Blacksmith Shop. I'm Jim Crothers and I'm one of the blacksmiths here. And today we're going to try to show you a little bit about forging in a somewhat old-fashioned blacksmith shop with traditional techniques and also how we adapt to modern techniques. So we're a combination shop. You can blacksmith today just as somebody could have blacksmithed 200 years ago. It's almost exactly the same with a few different things, but we won't even worry about that. So let's start with our fire. Since we do need heat to bend metal, we can't bend it without it. So I have my fire started. I got it started before you got here because it takes a while to get it going. But what we use for fuel is called soft coal. And this was discovered in the United States, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, around the 1830s or 1840s. And that's what blacksmiths started to use for fuel. Before that, when the Pilgrims first got here, they didn't know that this existed. They knew that there was some of it in England at the time, but even the Chinese knew that coal existed 3,000 years ago. But when the Pilgrims got here, they didn't know where to find it. So they used charcoal, just like you would use to cook your hamburgers with. Exactly the same stuff. And then once this was discovered, this turns out to be a very clean heat. It burns hot. It lasts a lot longer than charcoal. It's a lot hotter because we need to get our metal, or we can get it up to about 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. We're not going to take it up that high today because we don't need to. But that's soft coal. Our goal is to reduce that soft coal down to what we call coke. And this is a big chunk of coke. You know that coal is a fossil fuel, so there are old palm trees in here, dinosaurs, pterodactyls, or whatever. But after being squished together for millennium underneath the ground, we get the coal. And what happens is, in the fire, the gases that are contained in the coal are burned off, and the impurities are burned off, and we wind up with something that we call coke, and that's what this is. And this becomes our fuel. So that's why I started the fire a little bit earlier today, so that I could reduce the green coal, what we call green coal, down to coke. So that's what most of my fire is today. I got to play with the fire just a little bit. Now you could do some blacksmithing with just a fire in the fireplace. It's possible to do that. But in order to really bend metal around, you need to add air to it. And so 200 years ago, we would have had a big bellows. There's one located up in the ceiling area here that does work, but I would have to stand here and pull on a rope to pump it to blow the air through this black tube down and up underneath. So today, since we're a half modern, half historic blacksmith shop, we use an electric blower that's located in the back room, and I can jazz that up, boost the airspeed until it really goes up high. So I'm going to do that now just so you can see the fire jump. But I don't need that much air coming through, and I don't need that hot a fire for what we're going to work on today. So I'm just going to leave it like that, and it can be constant. So that's our fire. And unless we have it, we can't really bend the metal that we're going to work with. So what is it we're going to make today? Well, we're going to make what's called a drive spike hook. It's going to look like this when we finish, maybe a little bit longer. But I'll show you all the steps that go into making that, from cutting the metal to size to actually shaping this whole thing. Now the blacksmith's basic tools are something to hit the work with. This is a blacksmith's hammer, one style of them. There are several styles. Here's another style. This is my favorite one, just because it feels good in my hand. And then this is a more modern one, but the style is exactly the same. Notice that the back end, what we call the peen, doesn't have that claw thing that a carpenter's hammer would have. And that's because we don't need to pull out any nails. If I were doing horses and horseshoes, I'd be using a different style of hammer. But this is the style of hammer that we use in the shop. So I'm going to get rid of these because I'm not going to use these today. But I am going to use this one since this is my favorite. We also need some tongs, something to hold it. Now I'll be able to hold the work for a while because the heat won't travel that fast up of what I'm working with. But I will have my tongs here. And they come in all shapes and sizes depending on what the task is. But I know that this set of tongs will work with what I want to do. I'm going to need a wire brush so that I can clean off any impurities that are on the metal as I'm working it. And then you would have to wear safety glasses. Now these glasses that I have on are safety glasses. They look like dress-up glasses, but they are made of the same stuff that this is. So I'm not going to be wearing these today. But anybody else who walks in who does not have safety glasses with them, I insist that they put these on, but that won't be necessary. But those are very important. So we have our hammer, we have our tongs, we have our brush. I'm going to put that at the base of my anvil. And then this is the anvil that I'm going to work with today. Now anvils come in all sizes. They've changed shape a little bit over time, but in this particular case, this one weighs about 412 pounds, but I'm going to work with it because it's right where I want it to be for you to be able to see me as I'm working. But if you look around the shop, we have other anvils. Some are smaller, some are not as big as this one, but anybody can work on any anvil. You could actually do blacksmithing with two rocks, one at the bottom and one at the top, and it would work. Excuse me. But this is the anvil that I'm going to be working with today. So you're going to be looking here, and we're also going to be focusing on the fire as we start to work. Any questions so far?
What's the anvil made of?
What's the anvil made of? Many different things. Some of them are cast iron. Some of them are a composite with a hard steel top on it. And they were made in several pieces, so they had a huge, huge furnace type of fire where they would shape the pieces, put it together, and then weld it. So there are lots of different anvils on the market. Some are excellent quality, some are mediocre quality, but for the type of blacksmithing we do here, almost any anvil that we've got is just fine. You could actually use a railroad track for an anvil. Some people start with that. Works fine. But we're going to use this particular one. It's a Peter Wright anvil. The anvil makers were very proud of their work. They would sign it with a stamp on the side, and then they would tell you how many pounds it weighed on the other side. So we know this is a Peter Wright, made in Britain. It's like the Cadillac of anvils. The American Cadillac is a Hay Budden anvil, and I have one at my shop at home as well. Really, just a sweet, sweet anvil to work with. So those are our tools. And I think we're ready to start. So we need to cut a piece of the stock that we're going to do. So we're going to move over to the vise, and we'll go from there. So I've got a piece of smaller length of 1/4 inch stock that's in the vise. And I know from previous experience for what I want to do today that I want a piece that's about 14 inches long. So I'm going to take a little measurement. There's 14, right about there. So I'm going to take a piece of soft soap chalkstone and I'm going to mark it. And then tighten it up using a modern hacksaw. I'm going to cut that off. This will only take a second or so. I'll just break it right off, hang my saw back up. Take this out of the vise so I don't stab myself later on. So this is the piece of stock that I'm going to work with when I get into the fire. So this is our finished product, and this is the piece that we just cut off in the vise. And so we're going to start heating this up. But first I need to check my fire a little bit. Looks good. Lots of coke that's built up in there. No more green coal. All the dinosaurs are gone. So this is going to go into my fire. And now I have to be patient. That's one of the things I like about blacksmithing. It teaches me patience. There's a cliche, if you want to call it that, don't strike until the iron's hot. But it's actually true in this particular case. Until I get it hot, I can't bend it. So how do I tell? I wanted to get it to about 800 degrees Fahrenheit. And I can't tell just by looking at it. And if I went to a drugstore and I bought a thermometer and I stuck it into my fire to take the temperature, it would probably explode or burst. So the way the blacksmith then and now tells the temperature of the work that he wants to do or she wants to do, because we do have a lot of lady blacksmiths as well here at the museum, is we go by the color. So if I take this out of the fire, what I'm looking for is this piece to be this bright orange color. That's what I call pumpkin orange. That's the little nickname that I give it. Now just this little part here is pumpkin orange, but I need more of it before I go back to the anvil. So I'm going to put it back in. And 200 years ago, I would be pumping the bellows. Now I just have to be patient. I could boost up the heat, but I can wait.
How many different individual pieces would you be able to fit inside of that small?
Well, we can have 4 people working at this fire, and it kind of gets roughed up with just a little bit, but 4 people could work here without too much trouble.
Terrific.
And you're polite. If you mess up somebody else's work, you try not to. All right, so this is perfect. Pumpkin orange from here to here. And so at this point, I'm going to move back to the anvil, and I'll show you what our next steps are as far as drawing it out to a point. All right, so we've got pumpkin orange. And if you look at this, it's fine, but it has this kind of stuff on it. It's called slag or scale, and it's from the impurities that are still there. So I'm going to wire brush that off. And then I'm going to set up my anvil so that I can work at it. And what's going to happen is I'm going to draw a smiley face on my anvil. Now this is what we try to teach when we're starting blacksmithing, is we want to hit it in the same place at the same time. So we put a smiley face with an X in it. And that tells me that when I stick the piece over, I'm going to hit it where the X is in my smiley face. And I'm going to be pulling the work back to me. Now, if you look at it, is it that pumpkin orange? No, it's not. And so that's not really going to work for me. Is it still hot? Well, let's see. I'm going to put it on this stump over here. Sure, it's hot. I can almost put that on, start that on fire, which it won't do. But it's not hot enough for me to blacksmith. So what I'll do is I'll heat it up to orange. I'll take it out, and I'll start hitting it like this. I'll turn it over, and I'll continue that process. Okay, here we go. Back in the fire. I want to make sure my tongs are ready because I can feel it starting to get warm. Okay, here we go. Scale off, and we're going to hit it. We're going to turn it 180 degrees. I'm hitting on the X every single time. I'm going to turn it 90 degrees. And 180 again. Now, if I put any little bends in it, I can take a couple of seconds and I can straighten it out. Remember, it's still really hot. Let's compare it to the piece that I took out. Remember, we're drawing this out. We're pulling it out. We're making it longer and sharper. So let me go get the piece. This is what we started with. And if you look at this, you can see that this is starting to taper and it's getting longer. It's actually grown by about 1/2 inch. So it's time to go back in the fire. And now, because it's really getting warm on my hands, I'm going to start using my tongs. And these tongs are designed to handle the 1/4 inch square stock, so I'll have a real good grip on it. And again, color I want, pumpkin orange, perfect. Get rid of this scale, because we don't want to smoosh it into our project. And I'm going to switch over to a different hammer just to show you that it can be done. It's whatever fits for you for the hammer. Notice I pulled the work to me. I hit in the same spot every time. And I can touch it up. And then I'll clean this off of my anvil so it's not going into my work. So again, we're getting longer and pointier. So now I think I want to go to my octagon. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a progression as we work it to round. All right, and now this next heat, we're going to go to round. And I'm just twisting it with my left hand and holding the tongs. Notice that I still always pull the work to me. Okay. Now one more heat and I'm going to put a little curly Q on the tip. So I'll go back in my fire. And what I want to do is here's my final project. I want to get it a little pointier if I can, so that I can put this little hook on the edge of it. If I hung up a sweatshirt, I wouldn't want it to rip it. All right, so I'm going to just work on the point. And it's almost like a knitting needle at this particular point in time. And from here, we're going to put that little curly Q on it. And we're going to use a different part of our anvil. The parts of the anvil have all kinds of names. You can probably guess that this is the horn. But we've been using what's called the face of it. But now we're going to use our far edge. So that's going to be my next step. And you got to watch closely now. Back into the fire. Now this is where I use the peen side of my anvil. I'm not going to use the face. I want to control what I'm doing. And if you remember, the color I want is pumpkin orange. I can't work it unless I have it that way. Could I get it too hot? Yes. If you're a skier, you might have skied on a slope called White Lightning, and it's sloped just like this where you go like crazy. You can get this white hot, but then you're starting to burn it. But this is perfect pumpkin orange. All right, I come over the edge of my anvil, and I'm going to tap it down with the peen, and then I'm going to reach around, and then I'm going to coax it back. And notice I don't have to hit it hard as long as it's that pumpkin orange. And there's my little curl at the end of it. All right? Perfect. So we're going to heat everything up, the part that I drew out, that I made round, and the little tip. But I don't want to burn that tip because it's thinner than the other parts that I'm making. And I don't want to lose it. I've already made it. So when I come out, this part looks really good, but this part still isn't warm enough. So I'll go back into my fire. move some of my coals around. And when I take it out, I'm going to quench the tip in this bucket of water. So that I don't burn it up. Just a little bit. And this next time, I'm going to put now the bigger hook in it. So we're more than halfway home here. Perfect. I'm going to quench the tip so it doesn't burn on me. And then I'm going to come over the horn of the anvil. And I'm going to use my peen and just wrap it right around. And then come up underneath. And so far so good. We're halfway done, if not more than that. To heat this up, it's going to take longer than it usually does. And then I'll come out of the fire and I'll put my piece up in here like this. And then I'm going to grab it like this. And I'm going to turn around 360 degrees to put the twist in. Where the vise grabs it is going to be the bottom of my twist. And where I grab it at the top, it's going to be the top of my twist. And I'm going to walk around 360 degrees. Or I could go more, but I'm just going to do 360 for today. Get everything lined up. And remember, it's hot. So you can see the twist that we put in it. And you could put in double twist, triple twist, it all depends on what you want to do. It's decorative, but it's a blacksmith secret. This is the easiest thing that we've done all day today. Don't tell anybody how you put the twist in it. All right, so now I'm going to quench this to cool the whole thing off, and then I'm going to sharpen my other end and bend it. All right, so this is still hot from when I put my twist in it. So I want to quench this off. So I go into my slack bucket. And I really swish it around. And then I want to test it. Now through experience I know that it's probably fine. But we tap it against the back of our hand. If we grabbed it and it was still hot, we'd burn our hand and we'd have a handful of blisters. And then we couldn't work anymore. This way, if I tap the back of my hand, I know I'm in pretty good shape. And it seems fine, so I'm going to dry it off. And now the next step is for me to do some more drawing out on this end so that it's almost like a spike, and then bend it over so that I can drive it into a rafter in the garage. This is not to go into the wall at your house. That's not a good idea. All right, so we want to draw this end out to a point and then bend it over. And the technique is similar. Now I'm not going to go to octagon and round. So I've got this to a fairly good point, and now my next step is to heat it up. Take it over the edge of my anvil, and with the peen, just bang it down to a right angle, and we're almost done. All right, so we come out of our fire, and we're going to come over to the edge of our anvil, and we are going to bend this over, and I'm going to try to square it up as much as I can. Notice that I'm letting the anvil do most of the work because it is one of my tools, and that's not quite at a right angle, so basically, we're done.